June 1937, Southampton, England. A 42-year-old engineer lies dying in his home, worn down by cancer that surgery could not stop. He will never see his fighter plane enter service with the Royal Air Force. He will never see it fly in combat. He will never know that within 3 years it becomes the symbol of a nation that refuses to fall. His name is R.J. Mitchell, and the aircraft he spent the last years of his life racing to finish is the Supermarine Spitfire. Reginald Joseph Mitchell was born on May 20th, 1895, at 115 Congleton Road in Butt Lane, Staffordshire. The eldest of 3 sons to a local printer, Herbert Mitchell, and his wife Jane, his early years were spent in the industrial heart of the English Midlands. His father's printing business instilled an early respect for detail, but the boy's interest lay in the coal mines, ironworks, and heavy machinery that dominated the region. At age 16, he left Hanley High School and stepped directly into this industrial world, securing a 4-year apprenticeship at Kerr, Stewart & Company, a locomotive builder in Fenton. The drawing office at Kerr, Stewart was a demanding training ground. Here, Mitchell spent his days detailing heavy steel boilers, cylinders, and valve gears, learning how to translate physical forces into exact engineering drawings. But practical work was only one side of his development. After completing his daily shifts, he spent his evenings in night school classrooms, studying advanced mathematics and mechanics. This rigorous routine of daytime labor and nightly study developed a rare capability. Mitchell became an engineer who understood both the limits of physical metal and the mathematical formulas required to calculate those limits. He did not rely on guesswork. Every line he drew was backed by calculation. By 1916, the 21-year-old draftsman sought a different field of engineering. He left the railway works behind and moved to the southern coast of England, joining the Supermarine Aviation Works in Southampton. Initially hired as an assistant to company founder Hubert Scott Payne, Mitchell began his career in aviation as a simple draftsman. The shift from heavy railway locomotives to fragile wooden flying boats was immense, yet the core principles of structural precision and structural integrity remained identical. In the seaside workshop surrounded by wood, wire, and canvas, the young apprentice from the Midlands began adapting his knowledge of steam and steel to the fluid demands of flight, laying the groundwork for a career defined by high-speed aerodynamics. The young draftsman from Staffordshire did not remain in the background for long. His rise through the ranks of the Supermarine Aviation Works was astonishingly rapid, driven by a rare combination of mathematical precision and a practical command of materials. In 1920, at just 24 years old, Mitchell was appointed chief engineer of the company. It was a massive responsibility for a young man, placing him in charge of older, highly experienced shipwrights and mechanics on the Southampton docks. Yet his authority was quickly established through his sheer technical competence and tireless presence in the drawing office. 7 years later, in 1927, he became technical director, securing total authority over Supermarine's design department. This rapid ascent was not the result of a single brilliant breakthrough, but the consequence of intense continuous labor. Between 1920 and 1936, Mitchell directed the development of 24 different aircraft. This diverse portfolio did not focus on a single type. Instead, his designs spanned massive multi-engine flying boats like the Southampton, experimental twin-engine bombers, light utility aircraft, and ultra-fast racing seaplanes. Each project served as a physical testbed for his evolving theories on drag, structural strength, and engine integration. This immense output proved that his final genius was built on a broad foundation of practical experience. He balanced the design of heavy flying boats, built to withstand the pounding of ocean waves, with the razor-thin wings of racing planes designed to pierce the air at maximum speed. This constant tension between structural strength and aerodynamic efficiency shaped his entire philosophy. Yet, a quiet tragedy began to loom over this extraordinary productivity. The man who spent his youth and energy directing 24 distinct aircraft designs would ultimately be remembered for just one. The engineer who built Britain's most famous fighter would die before he ever saw it save the country he built it to defend. In 1925, the international competition for the Schneider Trophy became the crucible for Mitchell's engineering philosophy. Over the next 4 years, he designed a series of pioneering racing seaplanes, turning the coastal waters of southern England into a high-speed laboratory. These contests were not mere sporting spectacles, and they were grueling trials where designers pushed against the limits of physics. While the Royal Air Force's standard military biplanes of the late 1920s struggled to reach speeds of even 150 miles per hour, Mitchell's racing monoplanes were engineered to double that velocity. The Schneider races forced Mitchell to solve complex aerodynamic and thermodynamic problems that conventional designers ignored. To achieve extreme speeds, he had to eliminate every possible source of drag. He pioneered ultra-thin wing profiles and perfectly streamlined fuselages, but his greatest challenge was engine heat. Traditional radiators were bulky and created massive air resistance. In response, Mitchell built surface radiators directly into the metal skins of the wings and floats, allowing water and oil to cool by flowing over the outer surfaces of the aircraft itself. He obsessed over surface finish, demanding that every rivet be flushed perfectly smooth to minimize skin friction. This rigorous attention to detail gave him a profound understanding of high-speed aerodynamics that no other British engineer possessed at the time. This relentless work culminated on September 29, 1931, with the legendary Supermarine S6B, powered by a highly supercharged Rolls-Royce R engine. The sleek seaplane set a spectacular world airspeed record of 407.5 miles per hour. To put this achievement in perspective, this racing speed of over 400 miles per hour was faster than the operational top speed of the early Spitfires that would join the Royal Air Force 7 years later, which flew at roughly 362 miles per hour. The S6B's historic run secured the Schneider Trophy outright for Great Britain after 3 consecutive victories in 1927, 1929, and 1931, retiring the international prize forever. In recognition of this national triumph, Mitchell was awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire in December 1931. The aerodynamic secrets unlocked during these racing years would directly shape Mitchell's transition to military aircraft. The S6B had proven that speed and clean metal construction were the future of flight. Yet even as Mitchell prepared to harness these lessons for national defense, his personal timeline was collapsing. The very engineer who poured his remaining strength into designing Britain's ultimate shield would pass away before his creation ever rose to defend the country. In 1930, the British Air Ministry issued Specification F-730, a directive aimed at replacing the aging Gloucester Gauntlet biplane with a modern, all-metal day and night interceptor. The requirements were demanding. The new aircraft had to carry 4.303 caliber machine guns and achieve a minimum top speed of 250 miles per hour, all while maintaining a landing speed of no more than 50 miles per hour. For Mitchell, fresh from his Schneider Trophy triumphs, this was the moment to bring high-speed monoplane design to the Royal Air Force. His response was the Supermarine Type 224. This aircraft featured a striking inverted gull wing design, a heavy fixed undercarriage enclosed in aerodynamic trousers, and a 600 horsepower, evaporatively cooled Rolls-Royce Goshawk engine. On February 19, 1934, the prototype took to the skies for its maiden flight from Eastleigh Aerodrome. But racing prestige did not guarantee military success. The Type 224 was plagued by severe technical deficiencies from the outset. Its complex Goshawk engine relied on an experimental steam condensing cooling system that proved highly unreliable. In flight, the condensers failed to dissipate heat, causing the engine to boil over and forcing pilots to reduce power to avoid total engine failure. The large condenser housings also added immense drag, neutralizing any aerodynamic benefit of the streamlined fuselage. The performance numbers tell a story of complete failure. While the Air Ministry demanded a top speed of 250 miles per hour, the finished Type 224 struggled to reach just 228 miles per hour. Its landing speed, targeted at 50 miles per hour, was clocked at a dangerous 60 miles per hour, well outside the safety margins required for operating on rough grass airfields. The aircraft's climb rate was completely inadequate for interception duties, and test pilots described the handling as heavy and unsettling, with poor roll response and an excessive nose-up attitude. The Royal Air Force rejected the Type 224, choosing instead the biplane Gloucester Gladiator. It was a stinging public defeat for Mitchell. His creation never entered service. Instead, it was relegated to a military firing range to be destroyed as a ground target. The prestigious designer had built an obsolete failure, yet this absolute rejection forced a clean sheet reassessment of high-speed flight. With the rejection of the Type 224, Mitchell abandoned the failed design and instantly began work on a private venture, the Type 300. Where the Type 224 was a compromised hybrid of wood and metal, the Type 300 was engineered as an all-metal stressed skin monoplane. Mitchell systematically stripped away the structural errors that had crippled his previous fighter. The drag-producing fixed landing gear of the Type 224, which restricted its top speed to a disappointing 228 miles per hour, was replaced by a fully retractable undercarriage that folded flush into the wing, allowing the new design to target speeds exceeding 350 miles per hour. The heavy gull wing was smoothed into a flat wing-root junction, minimizing drag where the wing met the fuselage. The power source underwent an equally radical change. The Type 224's evaporative-cooled Goshawk engine, which produced only 600 horsepower and suffered from constant boiling, was discarded. In its place, Mitchell selected the brand-new Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. This liquid-cooled V12 unit delivered over 1,000 horsepower, giving the Type 300 nearly double the power of its predecessor within a far more compact, streamlined nose section. While the Goshawk radiators had added massive drag, the Merlin used a compact radiator system that allowed a clean nose profile, addressing the overheating issues that had doomed the earlier aircraft. To resolve the complex aerodynamics of this high-powered monoplane, Mitchell relied on Canadian-born aerodynamicist Beverly Shenstone, who joined Supermarine in 1932. Shenstone brought a thorough understanding of Prandtl's finite wing theory, studied while working in Germany. A popular myth has persisted for decades that the resulting aircraft's iconic elliptical wing was chosen for its beauty, a decorative design to make the plane look graceful. This is entirely false. Primary engineering records and Shenstone's own calculations prove the double elliptical shape was a calculated compromise, driven strictly by military necessity and speed. The Royal Air Force had issued a demanding new requirement. The fighter had to carry 8.303 caliber Browning machine guns. To achieve Mitchell's target speed of 400 miles per hour, the wing had to remain exceptionally thin, with a thickness-to-chord ratio of just 13% at the root. If Mitchell clustered the 8 guns together, the wing would have to be thick and heavy to house them, creating high-speed drag. By utilizing Shenstone's elliptical plan form, Mitchell could spread the guns and their ammunition boxes out along the wing's span, housing them where the curve naturally provided sufficient internal volume while keeping the outer wing razor-thin. This intense engineering effort was executed under a mounting personal shadow. In August 1933, as early sketches of the Type 300 were being drawn, Mitchell was diagnosed with rectal cancer and underwent a grueling colostomy. The physical toll was severe, yet Mitchell refused to slow down. Working from a cramped drawing office, he pushed his team with an absolute sense of urgency, working late into the night despite constant pain. His wife Florence noted his absolute determination, writing in her letters that the work had to go on. He knew his physical time was short, a reality that forced him to bypass standard Air Ministry review steps to accelerate the prototype's development. This physical race against time transformed the Supermarine drawing office into a high-pressure incubator, shaping an aircraft built not just for a nation's defense, but as a dying man's final statement. The designer who spent his remaining strength drafting this masterpiece was driven by a silent, tragic certainty. The creator of Britain's most celebrated Defender would not live to see his aircraft rescue the nation from the storm ahead. A popular belief holds that the Spitfire's elliptical wing was chosen purely for its elegant appearance. That is not true. The elliptical shape was a practical engineering solution, the only shape thin enough for speed that could still fit 8 machine guns and their ammunition boxes along its length. Mitchell cared only that the wing could hold the guns, not whether it was celebrated later as beautiful. Behind the wing's striking geometry lay the cold math of Canadian aerodynamicist Beverly Shenstone. Having studied Prandtl's finite wing theory in Germany, Shenstone knew that an ellipse offered the absolute minimum induced drag. But theory had to survive the harsh demands of the Air Ministry. The military required 8 Browning machine guns to be buried inside the wing. To reach the targeted speed of 400 miles per hour, the wing had to remain exceptionally thin, with a thickness-to-chord ratio of just 13% at the root. A standard rectangular or tapered wing thin enough for such speeds could not physically house the bulky ammunition boxes and firing mechanisms. If the wing were thickened to fit the guns, the resulting drag would have crippled the aircraft's performance, reducing its top speed significantly. By curving the leading and trailing edges into a double ellipse, Shenstone and Mitchell created a wing that was thickest near the root, precisely where the guns and retractable landing gear needed to be housed, while tapering to a razor-thin profile at the tips. This was not art. It was calculation. Supermarine Design Committee logs from the period show no discussions of aesthetics, only debates over structural load and drag coefficients. When colleagues later commented on the design's grace, Mitchell dismissed the praise entirely. To him, the shape was a necessary compromise forced by the laws of physics and the demands of firepower. The wing's legendary beauty was merely an accidental byproduct of absolute functional efficiency. The physical construction of the Type 300 proceeded under a dual threat: the rapid expansion of German air power across the English Channel and the steady progression of the disease inside Mitchell's own body. Following his 1933 cancer diagnosis and subsequent colostomy, his daily life became a grueling struggle against physical decline. Yet he refused to abandon the drawing office. Driven by the conviction that a European war was inevitable and that Britain's air defenses were dangerously obsolete, he pushed his design team to work late into the night. On March 5, 1936, this race against time reached its critical milestone at Eastleigh Aerodrome in Hampshire. The unpainted prototype, serial K5054, was wheeled onto the grass. Mitchell, now too weak to stand on the windy airfield, watched the proceedings from the front seat of his parked car. At 4:35 p.m., test pilot Captain Mutt Summers opened the throttle of the experimental Merlin engine. The prototype took to the air, climbing away from the runway with a grace that masked the complex mathematics behind its construction. After a brief flight, Summers landed and famously demanded that nothing be changed. From his car, Mitchell watched his concepts fly, a sharp contrast between his failing physical strength and the soaring speed of the aircraft. The Air Ministry recognized the breakthrough immediately. On June 3, 1936, just 3 weeks after the maiden flight, they took an unprecedented gamble. Bypassing official trial completions, the ministry ordered 310 production Spitfires. This single production contract, worth £1.25 million, dwarfed the original £10,000 prototype agreement. It was a massive industrial commitment, spurred by the worsening political situation in Europe. Yet even as Supermarine prepared its Woolston factory for mass production, Mitchell's personal timeline was collapsing. The very engineer who poured his remaining strength into designing Britain's ultimate defender would pass away before his creation rose to rescue the nation from the storm ahead. His time had run out. In the autumn of 1936, the cancer that Mitchell had fought since 1933 returned with aggressive force. His physical decline was rapid, yet he spent his remaining strength in the Southampton drawing office, supervising the early stages of production preparation. By early 1937, seeking specialized care, he traveled to Vienna, Austria. The trip was a final, grueling effort to halt the disease. Mitchell stayed in Vienna for a month, but the treatments could not reverse the damage. At the end of May 1937, Mitchell returned to his home in Southampton, physically broken but clear-minded. He knew his work was complete, even if his time had run out. On June 11, 1937, surrounded by his family, Reginald Joseph Mitchell died at the age of 42. His passing was a heavy blow to the team at Supermarine, but there was no time to pause. The threat of war was expanding, and the Air Ministry's order for 310 fighters remained unfulfilled. To succeed, Mitchell's handcrafted prototype had to be turned into an industrial weapon. Joseph Smith, Supermarine's chief draftsman, was appointed to succeed Mitchell as chief designer. Smith was a practical engineer who understood that a weapon of war must be manufactured quickly and in great numbers. While Mitchell designed for speed and form, Smith focused on the realities of mass production. He immediately set about simplifying the aircraft's internal structure, redesigning complex wing ribs and standardizing components so they could be built by workers in factories across the country. Because of these changes, the Spitfire did not enter Royal Air Force service until August 1938, when No. 19 Squadron received their first aircraft at Duxford. Mitchell never lived to see this moment. The engineer who designed Britain's most famous fighter died before he could see it fly in defense of his country. The first Spitfire. Mark I entered service with No. 19 Squadron at RAF Duxford on the 4th of August 1938, initially painted in the squadron's light blue and white markings. The transition from a hand-built prototype to a frontline military weapon was complete, but the ultimate test of Mitchell's design was still to come. That moment arrived on October 16, 1939, over the cold waters of the Firth of Forth, when auxiliary pilots scrambled to intercept a German bombing run. A Spitfire shot down a Heinkel He 111, securing the aircraft's very first confirmed combat victory of the war. The news was quickly relayed to the workforce at Supermarine's Woolston factory, proving that their long hours of labor had produced a deadly interceptor. Though the early Spitfire's operational top speed of 362 miles per hour was slower than the S-6B seaplane's world record of 407.5 miles per hour, the direct lineage of that high-speed racing development was immediately clear. By the summer of 1940, as the Battle of Britain raged in the skies over southern England, the Spitfire became the aircraft the British public identified most closely with the defense of the nation. Its roar and elliptical silhouette became synonymous with survival. To sustain this aerial defense, British industry mobilized on an unprecedented scale. Between 1937 and 1947, factories produced exactly 20,351 Spitfires across 24 distinct variants. This immense manufacturing effort made the Spitfire the only Allied fighter to remain in continuous production before, during, and after the Second World War. The locomotive apprentice from Staffordshire had sacrificed his remaining years to give his country a shield. His calculations had proved correct, and his thin, elegant wing had met the harsh demands of war. He never saw it fly for Britain, but Britain never stopped flying it. If you value stories of engineering and sacrifice, subscribe for more. The scale of this industrial achievement is best understood through its numbers. While the Air Ministry allocated 10,000 pounds for the original prototype, a single mass-produced Spitfire eventually cost 9,500 pounds to build. This unit cost represents a refined balance of advanced metallurgy and hand-finished craftsmanship, multiplied across an astronomical scale. British factories transformed Mitchell's handcrafted design into a vast national infrastructure, ultimately manufacturing 20,351 aircraft. This massive output was not uniform. The airframe was adapted into 24 distinct variants, keeping the aircraft competitive from the first day of hostilities to the last. This adaptability allowed the Spitfire to achieve a record unmatched by any other aircraft. It stood as the only Allied fighter in continuous production before, during, and after the Second World War. From the initial tooling in 1937 to the final assembly runs in 1947, the production line never stopped. 10 years of constant manufacturing transformed a highly specialized racing derivative into the backbone of an empire's defense. The engineering calculations that Mitchell drafted in his final years survived the transition from a quiet Southampton drawing office to a sprawling nationwide network of shadow factories, proving that his design was as robust in the hands of factory workers as it was lethal in the hands of pilots. The Spitfire's military career did not end with the surrender of Germany and Japan. While the vast majority of wartime piston engine fighters were rapidly retired, this remarkably versatile airframe remained in frontline combat service with air forces around the globe well into the 1950s. The Royal Air Force did not retire its very last operational Spitfire, a Mark 24, until 1957. Today, more than 70 airworthy Spitfires are lovingly maintained by museums and private owners, regularly taking to the skies at air shows and memorial flights to keep the sound of Mitchell's engine alive. The immense personal sacrifice behind this legendary machine was dramatized for a wartime public in the 1942 film The First of the Few, which permanently secured Mitchell's place in British culture and gave him his lasting posthumous nickname. Yet a quiet tragedy still defines this enduring presence. The brilliant designer who exhausted his remaining strength to build this country's shield passed away before he could see his creation rise to save the nation. Mitchell's race against time redefined the limits of human ingenuity under existential threat. Today, his legacy of urgent brilliance still echoes in the skies we take for granted, reminding us of the immense cost of our freedom. He never saw it fly for Britain, but Britain never stopped flying it. Subscribe for more stories of history's greatest innovators.